Thimbles Night. 12 years ago, I had a very scary and unusual experience. I had just started college, and my roommate and I had just finished setting up our rooms so we could comfortably focus on class tomorrow. It was getting late, so I decided to go to bed. My roommate decided to set an alarm early so we could have plenty of time to get ready and get a bite to eat before we headed into class in the morning. We were awoken by a blaring alarm 3 hours too early. My roommate, we will call her Trish, protect her true identity, and I headed to the kitchen where her phone mysteriously ended up while the alarm was going off. As we walked up to turn off the loud alarm, wondering how it moved in the first place from the kitchen from the nightstand, I noticed next to the phone stood an old, rustic-looking thimble. We shook the whole experience off as probably just a dorm prank. That it was just probably some upperclassmen playing tricks. I threw the thimble in the trash and we made our way back to bed. The next morning, despite the early alarm wake-up, I still felt pretty well rested. Got dressed and ready and decided we should just cook breakfast instead. We got our stuff afterwards and headed into class. Long, boring day. Afterward, when we got home, I dropped off my bag on the floor in the kitchen and sat at the table, and my roommate went to the fridge to get waters for both of us. She handed me a water and I took a big swig from the cup. As I put the cup down, I look at the table and I see the same rustic thimble just sitting there. I wasn't there before, was it? Whatever. I went to the window and threw the thimble outside, slamming the window closed. That night, I was tossing and turning, unable to turn off my brain. Finally, I was able to fall asleep, but as soon as I closed my eyes, I was awoken to Trish standing at my door with her hand out. She was holding something. As she started forward, I got up from my bed and I asked her, "What is that?" She continued forward silently with her hand out. I couldn't see her face, just a silhouette of her as she crossed the room. She came closer and was soon at the foot of the bed, hand still out. Now, where the light now showed from the window, I see the thimble, the same rustic thimble, in her hand. But how? I threw the thimble out the window. Trish stepped closer, and the light cast upon her lifeless-looking body. She had a blanketed white eyes like a zombie, and a demeanor to match. I covered my face with my pillow as she reached for me with the other hand, and I woke up. I awoke on the floor in a puddle of sweat. What was that? A weird dream? I got off the floor confused. It was still the middle of the night, so I tried to go back to sleep. I couldn't. So I was like, I should get some water. So I went to the fridge and I got a bottle of water from the fridge. As I'm taking a drink, I noticed a twinkle out of the corner of my eye, coming from the counter nearby next to the toaster. I turned my head and looked, and to my dismay, there it is, the thimble, in all its rustic glory, sitting on my counter. In a panic, I grabbed it, threw it in the trash, took the trash out into the dormitories, and down the trash chute. Then I went back to my room and locked the door. The next morning, I was still groggy from my ordeal. I went to go check on Trish, who was surprisingly still in bed, which is very uncharacteristic of her. She's normally the first one up. She was still asleep, so I set her alarm for her so she could get up for class. I decided not to stay in the apartment too long, so I went headed out to get coffee before class. Once there, I waited at the door for her, but she never showed up. Maybe she wasn't feeling good. I'll go to class, at least I can get the notes and take them back to her afterwards. After class, I headed back to our dorm to find the door wide open, and all the lights were off and curtains closed. It was completely dark and completely quiet. I stood at the door, just staring into the darkness. Wondering, where's Trish? I take a deep breath and take a step inside. My friend is in here. I need to find her. As I step in, my foot slightly catches something. I can't see, so I bend down to pick up whatever it is. The thimble? How? What's going on? What is this thing? I lift my eyes from the horrific sight of the thimble, and my eyes are met with an equally disturbing sight. My roommate, blanket, white eyes, and expressionless face, diving at me with a kitchen knife. Luckily, I was still near the door, having only taken a single step in. I threw the thimble at her and quickly jumped back and slammed the door in her face. I ran and I did not look back. I ran as fast as I could back to my car and got the hell out of there. I just remember hearing the banging on the door, as if she were unable to open it for some reason. That was the last time I saw my friend. I heard she was found 2 months later in the room, everything destroyed, everything disheveled. Her body was found in tattered clothing, sitting in the middle of her room on the floor, clutching a single rustic thimble. That thimble, what is it? Why does it draw on others? Sometimes I think what might have happened if I had kept the thimble instead. I still miss my friend.